Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dan, the voice behind that Kaito Dan, and welcome to my review for RWBY Volume 8 Episode 4, Fault. But before we begin, as always, please watch the episode first through roosterteeth.com to support the show and avoid spoilers. Off to the fandom spotlight we go, and there were a lot of interesting thoughts shared by you guys, such as They Called Me Bad, who gave a neat little summary to explain why RWBY didn't catch on to the depths of her semblance until Penny's breakdown, while John Ronald offered a fair focus on Elm and Harriet's viewpoint that could explain their rather hostile attitude. And finally, many of you seem to agree on one thing: Bill definitely needs to do better. Don't forget to leave your thoughts on this latest episode in the comments down below, as well as any art you would like to see get featured, and tune in next week to find out if you got showcased. So, last time out, it was all about RWBY Squad and their efforts relating to the Amity Tower, which offered up some fun laughs, tasty character drama, and a wild ride of action that also gave us some massive reasons to panic. This time though, we're back to exploring multiple points of focus, and after stuff went rocky for one half of the heroes, how did things fare for the rest of the gang? And was it an entertaining experience in the process? Let's find out! We start off by returning to the Jailbirds, with Robin's attempts to lighten the mood not going all that well, considering her audience is a gloomy crow and a literal shit with flies. But Robin does actually finally manage to crack a smile out of Crow, which does give her a chance to share some sympathy over Clover's death. With the subject breached, we finally get to hear Crow's thoughts on what went down, and how even with Robin's best efforts, he still does feel he is to blame after making a deal with the darkness that made Clover pay the highest cost. He does point out how Clover didn't really help matters by forcing him into considering working with Tyrion due to the Elysians' constant attempts to arrest them both. But the moment he starts to divulge the blame this way, Crow immediately stops. It doesn't matter to him ultimately what influenced his decision or who else could share the blame. Crow just can't overlook that the risk wasn't worth it in the end, and it's ultimately his sin to bear. What makes the outcome sting more is that what felt like the first healthy bond he could have had that wouldn't have been affected by his semblance ultimately did end, not because of said bad luck, but because of his own actions, which I feel does give some great understanding as to why this relationship that didn't really last all that long hurts this much. When thinking about other close people in Crow's life that he has lost or grew apart from, while their absence no doubt cuts him deeply, a lot of it does come down to matters outside of his control, even if he does still blame it on his semblance. He wasn't involved in Summer's death. Team Stark's divide seems to be largely down to Raven's actions and the aforementioned death of Summer. He didn't find out about Shira Wan's death till he made it a haven, and the only relationships that Crow has had an actual say in the divide is his distance from his nieces early on out of fear for their safety, and leaving the bandit tribe cause of a clash of morals. He's dealing with the pain of loss born from an incident he had control in for the first time, and coupled with it happening just as things look to be turning a corner for him, it's understandable then why even this fledgling bond is cutting him so deep, to the point that he's starting to believe such hopes to ever improve his life for any kind of better is nothing but a childish dream. It's tragic stuff to listen to, but it is also equal parts captivating, and a great insight on the newest hurdle in Crow's quest to find positivity. And sure, much of these are feelings that we have kind of summarized pretty much since the incident happened, but it's great to finally hear Crow say it himself, and props as well to Jason Liebrecht for the way he further makes Crow sound so defeated and lifeless as he shares such a broken mindset. Thankfully though, Robin can relate in a way, as she notes how her own semblance of lie detection has led to some rough moments where people don't trust her, and perhaps these two could find some common ground with their own mutual understanding of dealing with semblance-hampered connection difficulties. I have felt these two would work well off each other on normal occasions, with a similar style for sharp wit and rugged understanding of the world's struggles. But this similar thread makes me even more eager to see more of their dynamic at play, and whether you or the show wishes to take it to a romantic level or just platonically, I still think Robin is the next best person to help Crow find a better stability in his life. He's had RWBY give him the push to restart living life with purpose again, but that's coming from a familial sort, and Clover gave him the non-familial praise and chemistry that he needed to prove that he can get on the right path. Now with Robin, he could hopefully learn that he doesn't need someone who can magically counter his semblance to feel happy. He just needs people who will stand by him and give him all the support and comfort that he needs to live as close to a normal life as possible through good times and bad. The pair's bonding gets halted though, as surprisingly, Watts is brought back to his cell. I figured he would have been kept under firing squad even after managing to crack Penny's tech in case of any further technical needs in the future. But I guess Ironwood either feels it's safer to put him back in jail if he's not in any immediate need, or his work is now done completely. The Doctor's return to the Slammer does alleviate some of my worries about Penny being forced to kill Pietro once she's hacked, now that the Good Doctor's biggest rival is away from the tech. But that does still leave Ironwood free to consider it, and you wouldn't be unfair to believe that the General would actually be more likely to consider the idea than Watts. Arthur's return also brings us Marrow and Harriet, the latter calling out Crow for having Clover's emblem and dismissing his attempts to state his innocence, since to Harriet, the bloodied weapon is all the proof she needs. Robin then chimes in saying, hey, let me use my semblance to prove Crow's innocence, but Harriet is having none of it, and Robin then starts calling her out on her stubbornness. To her, she sees Harriet as the type who doesn't want to admit when she's in the wrong, and that makes her lash out at anyone who's trying to correct her, just to get off in some anger. Some curtain bobs thrown the speedster's way that, if not for Marrow's intervention, could have led to a tussle between the two ladies, which, admittedly, I'm actually all for seeing in the future. Marrow though, I can't help but wonder if he'll take the offer down the line. He's got his own doubts that he may be more willing to act on compared to Harriet, and the two did have that discussion last volume over doing what's right, even with some rule breaking, so it may be him who helps Robin and Crow get out as a way to try and make up for his inability to leave without being the next target in Ironwood's sights. Regardless, this was a really strong opening scene that finally gave Robin some appreciated emotional layers and shone a light on Crow's current emotions beyond considering taking down Ironwood, whilst also setting up the stage well for him and Robin to form a worthwhile bond of their own. And hopefully it will be the case that this is what the broken Birdman needs to dust himself down and make things right again, especially if Crow starts to lose himself when he does eventually cross paths again with Jimmy. After that, we go from a war of words to a rescue mission as Jean, Yang and Ren chase after the Hound and Oscar deeper into the tundra, and immediately things start off bad as the tundra's cold is damaging the rhinos. But in a moment that instantly made me think of a same move done by Pyrrha and Nora back in Volume 1, the Juniper lads pull off their own shield launch to send Ren flying into the air so he can lasso onto the Grim. Even more problems start to arise though as the chase leads into a rocky valley, turning Ren into the world's most unfortunate wrecking ball, and the gang's attempts to slow the beast down only leads to it calling for backup, a horde of Sentinels and Terexes. On the positive side, it also brings us our first insert song for the volume, and though there's no name for it yet, it's a super high energy tune befitting the fast-paced action going on, and the lyrics help give it a sort of reversed tone to the song Miracle from Volume 4. That song was all about standing strong and persevering through the seemingly unwinnable situations, whereas the lyrics heard so far for this one seems to be the feelings of someone giving up in that same situation, the world crashing down around them and all they hope to do is hang on in a vain hope for survival. Definitely feels like it's mirroring Ren's attitude as of late, and the heavy amount of falling related references sure as hell isn't making me feel any less nervous about Atlas doing the exact same in the foreseeable future. Gonna give some love though to my boy Jean, who really shows his quick thinking and combat growth as he manages to avoid an incoming attack by deftly shield hopping his way up to Yang, and then making use of the pocket shield as a makeshift ramp to clear a Teryx roadblock. I'm making a statement now that I think Jean's grav shield upgrade is a far better improvement to his arsenal than the broadsword upgrade from Volume 4, cause since getting this welcome tweak, the lad's defensive, offensive, and traversal skills have received a welcome boost that has helped Jean keep up with the rising dangers and the growth of his comrades, though I do also appreciate that he's still not the most graceful of people after pulling off some of these big stunts, keeping note that even with his improvements, he is still rough around the edges. But just as it looks like the blondes made it out okay, they're unable to avoid tumbling off a cliff, only for Ren to finally use that grapple lunge move to great effect, saving the pair in a moment that's not all that different to another cliffside rescue from a character based on the tales of Mulan. Hell of a thrill ride for Team Joyride this one, a fresh kind of action set piece for the series that, while still brief, provided enough nail-biting tension and plenty of fun sequences to really ramp up the desperation, but still entertain the viewer all the same. The only thing that I would say I would have done better would maybe give Yang something to take away as a noteworthy sequence of her own, but really that's just splitting hairs for what was still a wicked last gasp effort by the trio that has still left them defeated and Oscarless. Now here's a surprise, as we suddenly find ourselves back at the Schnee Manor, where the rest of the heroes have turned up following their mission at the military base. I didn't think we would end up here of all places again, or at least not right now, but I guess if we're talking Atlas, this is the closest safe place that the gang could lay low in and tend to Nora as soon as possible, so it does make sense. Doesn't stop Whitley, mind you, from being less than happy to see his sister again after what went down the last time she was here, and even after she barges her way in, he notes his displeasure at having criminals in the house, concerned that it will harm the family's reputation. A little bit cheeky of him to say that, considering everything Jacques himself did to sully the family's good name long before all this, and obviously there's a lot more important things to worry about right now than an already stained family's reputation. Then again, this is Jacques' molded heir we're talking about, and speaking of Jacques, his arrest has led to all the staff leaving, and Willow locking herself in her room, I guess trying to come to terms with her husband finally being casted out, at least for the time being. But that does mean that Whitley has had no one to tend to him since the arrest, and obviously he has had a lot of an emotional woes on his shoulders too, so I can't really fault him too much for being snippy with his sister right now. Though nor do I feel all that guilty about Weiss retorting with sternness in kind. I know some people aren't happy with Weiss for being so sour with Whitley even after her mother asked her to take care of him, but to be fair, he was about to chew her out first, and Weiss shouldn't have to accept that when all she wants is somewhere to keep safe for the moment and tend to Nora. Her health is a little bit more critical right now than being instantly gentle with someone who for years has been sour to her regardless of her woes. That's likely why she also sends him up to his room for the time being, so she knows that he is still safe inside the house but out of her hair for the moment while other matters of higher importance are needed tended to first. Then later on, after making sure Nora is okay and they're not in any more danger, then she can try and sort out the issue with her brother without anything else on her mind. So yeah, I got no real issue with Weiss's attitude here, given the context at play, and I'm sure the two siblings will touch on their differing issues with treating each other so poorly once that discussion happens. They're not the only ones with concerns though, as Blake tries to comfort a worried RWBY by suggesting she should call Yang to make sure she's okay. Kinda surprised she hasn't tried to do it herself, but I guess she doesn't want to come off as needy and she's asking others to do it in her place. That would explain that recent call I had. Shout out to the Xiaolong pair, by the way, for that reference to their live stream. Go check it out, by the way. Anyway, back to calling Yang, and yeah, about that. Kinda hard to call someone when thick snow is blocking out signals. With a busted hoverbike and only the faint sighting of an outpost to bank on, the three aim for shelter before they all freeze to death. And nice attention to detail, by the way, by showing Ren hitting the red zone first, given his low stamina and the smashes he just took, followed by Yang, and then Jean, still barely in the yellow thanks to his high aura level. Sadly, as things get colder, the emotions get more heated, as Ren's passive-aggressive tone isn't mixing all that well with Yang's rising frustrations over his bitter attitude, and the two start to vent. This latest failure is just piling on more reasons for Ren to believe the heroes are way in over their heads with everything they've been through since arriving in Atlas, especially now they've just lost Oscar on top of having no lamp, no backup, and no idea how to actually stop Salem or deal with Ironwood. Even Yang pointing out how they have Penny on their side is a pittance to the fact that also means Atlas can float away, leaving everyone in both Atlas and Mantle trapped in the line of fire, while he and the others face more and more failures, proving his belief that they were never ready to handle such trials, regardless of them becoming pro-huntsmen recently. And he's right. They are far too young and inexperienced to be dealing with tough choices that can determine the fate of a whole kingdom or the whole of Remnant. Even with the expected dangers of being a huntsman, this is something that none of them were readily prepared for, so I can totally understand where Ren is coming from, especially with so many instances of them failing as of late. But Ren's dismissing everything they have achieved. They protected Haven, kept the lamp safe until recently, they stopped the bad guys getting another Maiden's powers, and they even protected Argus from the Leviathan, albeit mostly through Ruby, Silver Eyes, and Cordovan. Sure, there's just as many, if not more L's than W's on their results page, but as Yang points out, it's better than doing nothing, and things could still be much worse, so just because they failed more recently as of late, they shouldn't give up when they are the only ones who can still make a difference. This isn't an issue where one side is completely right and the other completely wrong. They are equal in both criterias, and the strong camera work, the gorgeous sunset lighting, and the performances of Neith and Barbara do a wonderful job at creating the perfect heated argument scenario full of escalating raw emotions that builds to a boiling point of understandable emotions and tension, also once again showcasing the welcomed quality found in mixing up the hero teams for some of these unique discussion dynamics. There is one bit of jankiness with Ren's posing between these two cuts here, but it doesn't detract all that much from what's still a fantastic scene that reaches a fever pitch as Ren really starts to hammer home how strongly he feels he's the only one willing to address they're all out of their league. In his mind, none of them are prepared for such life-threatening conflicts. Not Ruby, who he still views as a kid, not himself, the orphan from the middle of nowhere, which, oof, talk about harsh self-critiquing, and in his biggest outburst as Jean tries to calm things down, not someone who snuck themselves into Beacon, a stinging comment that surprises all of them, even Ren once he realizes what he just said. For those wondering when Ren may have heard about this, I imagine it was after all the bully arc stuff, Jean being more open about it with his teammates to make up for his actions, and though we can't say for sure if he told the others since Yang's reaction could be in regards to this being a reveal or just the shock of the outburst itself, I wouldn't put it past him since he does still obviously care about them in equal measure. But yeah, it's been a while since we last heard some mention of this detail, and hearing it come from Ren of all people as a note of his less than humble beginnings had to have hurt Jean as much as it hurt Ren to say under any circumstance, almost like it's a glimpse into some doubts that Ren may have about Jean's ability even after all the strong progress he's made over the years. But I love that Jean's response is a silent hurt yet focused reminder that regardless of what's been said, they need to find shelter, and they must carry on with their mission even if Ren doesn't believe in their chances for success or their abilities to be true huntsmen. They still have a job to do, and Miles perfectly captured that quiet but heavy feeling of betrayal and suffering that Jean must have been feeling with such earnest realism to his voice. And it does say a lot about the boy's growth that such a scathing reminder of his weaker days doesn't stop him from doing what needs to be done. It sure doesn't make Ren feel any better for saying it, neither does Yang accusing him of wanting to push everyone away. We've seen the lad bottle up more and more of his emotions as each passing day comes in Atlas, and now it's starting to cause deeper divides between himself and his friends. And considering what's happened to Nora, I'm utterly fascinated to see what that kind of situation will bring to Ren's mentality now that he's starting to realize the ramifications of bottling up so much is causing him to uncharacteristically lash out at the people whose safety is one of the biggest reasons why he is so outspoken right now about their increasing failures. But geez, that was a rather heavy scene to discuss. I need something to lighten the mood. What's next on the list? Oh, fudge cake. Oscar Protection Squad, my condolences. As next up, we watch Oscar come to in the jaws of the Hound and the clutches of Salem, the Wicked Witch welcoming her captive, or more specifically, her Ozma, as she eerily plays with some shadows in the shape of the former couple's children, complete with creepy kid laughter in the background. Welcoming indeed. It's the first time that Salem has been face to face with her old flame since their, well, rather heated separation. And though Oscar tries to remain calm by adopting the Ozma voice, that doesn't last long, as Salem grasps his face, knowing full well the bonding process isn't complete just yet. Good news for her then, as she hopes to convince Oscar to tell her what she wants to know, namely, the location of the beacon relic, finally confirming that that is the intentions for why she wants to have access to the lamp, which she also asks the password for after Oscar notes not being in the know on the beacon relic's location, which I bet is the truth. Much like Salem says, it's safe to assume that that is going to be a big secret that Ozpin will really want to keep close to his chest, considering the lengths he's already gone to hide the thing in the first place. Oscar then goes for the out of questions lie regarding the lamp, with less than favourable results, as Salem just straight up blasts the poor boy with a beam of magic. No, not the grim stuff, just straight up magic. A hyper beam of it directly into the farm boy's chest in one of the series' most heartbreakingly painful and traumatic moments for sure. Helped as well by Aaron Disney just killing it with his screams of pain. It's hard to tell exactly if Ozpin is trying to lessen some of the damage, since you can see Oscar's eyes go yellow, much like when they switch control, but even still, you can tell by the sights and the sounds that Oscar is under intense pain. But give the lad credit, he doesn't buckle, even after all he just went through, as he flat out tells Salem he is not telling her anything she wants. But perhaps the worst response Salem could give is a small smile, because that alone tells you all you need to know about her mindset even before she speaks. She doesn't care how long either Oscar or Ozma fights back, she has full confidence that she will get what she wants, and she'll do anything to get them. But hey, at least Oscar's out of the woods for now, right? He handled that blast about as well as possible, so surely he can handle whatever is in me and my big mouth. Yeah, it's not over for Oscar just yet, because now it's the big boy's turn to force some answers out, with a side helping of payback for the fight at Haven, and Hazel's ongoing hatred for Ozpin's role in his sister's death, as he just pummels the poor kid around like a rag doll. This scene super hurt to watch, and I can only imagine how rough it was for the big time Oscar fans. If you would like to join the Oscar Protection Squad, please call 1-800-AAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAA But to those fans, I hope you don't hate me for saying this, but I'm kinda glad we saw Salem go to such lengths. The series has already gone to some dark areas in the past, but it's not uncommon for an animated series to shy away from showing torture as it happens, avoiding such imagery for the sake of any younger viewers, which can lessen as well the intimidation level of a villain if they're supposed to be someone who has no care for the suffering of her enemies, and we don't get to see it. But here, no. We saw two forms of torture that doesn't shy away from showing Salem's cruelty, and for a lead villain that has had to slowly build the aura of a bad guy that we're supposed to fear what she's capable of, this is the best kind of support for such a mystique that she's had pretty much since her debut, even more so with Gentila's masterful ability to sound confident and alluring, yet twisted and sinister. Salem never looks nor sounds like she's not in full control of the situation here. Even when she gets violent, she's still keeping some composure, knowing full well her mere presence is enough to scare Oscar. But she has no problem going one step further to get her target, and that is some fantastic material. Not only that, but the frequent uses of my Ozma and the way she almost seems to enjoy how similar Ozma and Oscar are beyond their soul bonding further gives this chilling tone that makes me concerned with every passing second that the poor lad is trapped in her clutches. I do wonder though if any future time with Hazel being sent in to pound the farm boy's gut into compost might also give some room for some deeper exploration of the stuff regarding Gretchen. Perhaps Ozpin can take control at one point to further discuss what led to her death, to try and get Hazel to realize he is on the wrong side, or at least stop putting Oscar through so much pain. Speaking of Ozpin, this is a real test for him as well, as no doubt he is torn between keeping the beacon relic safe and the health and safety of Oscar. If he truly does care about his well-being and is sorry for dragging him into this whole mess, he may decide that he has to spare his life and tell Salem where it is, so Oscar can survive another day. We then see Cinder has been waiting to speak with her mistress, and even she is thrown off by the appearance of the Hound, Salem saying it's an experiment of hers. So that, plus Cinder's shock, definitely suggests that it's a creation that has indeed been a recent thing, and not something that Salem could have done before. Sticking with the Hound, there was a cutaway to its face during Oscar's torture, which I can't help but wonder if that's setting up something, like maybe the beast will later grow some human compassion. Obviously we got all the multitude of the Hound is this character, and that character theories going around right now, but perhaps this could tie into any sort of revelation like this down the line, the Grimm slowly becoming more human over time, either as the culmination of Salem's experiment, finishing as a true human Grimm, or it's whatever human the Hound was made with, breaking through the fusion the more it sees people suffering. I'm still unsure if I'm willing to bet on these theories just yet, but there's certainly a lot of interesting dynamics at play whatever route this growth takes this experiment down, and I'm all in on seeing these elements come to play. Anyway, Cinder tries once again to convince Salem to let her obtain the Winter Maiden powers, but in a retort that is so deliciously satisfying, Salem pretty much gives Cinder a taste of her own medicine, with what amounts to her saying, "Don't think, obey." Cinder hasn't done enough lately to warrant Salem caring for her wants or thoughts, and she's grown more tired with her constant refusal to follow orders. At one point even the Hound lunges at the Vixen's way as a message to shut up and obey her queen. Again, this is super satisfying seeing the shoe on the other foot, ironically, for this Cinderella-inspired villainess. Though when she once again repeats that phrase from the volume premiere, "Without you, I am nothing," I couldn't help but wonder if this is a submissive quote that has been beaten into her head from her past. As we see in the next scene, Cinder does seem to have her limits when it comes to being unable to seek power, as she is now preparing to sneak away to Amity Tower to check in on the actions of the heroes, completely ignoring Salem's order, which you can bet the moment Salem finds out, and she will, that's it. and I cannot wait to see the fallout of that scenario. I also cannot help but love Neo just being all kinds of extra as she floats along while silently questioning Cinder's reckless actions. She already hasn't been enjoying her time since arriving on the whale, and I guess she's not fond of risking her life, be it for Salem's lot or for Cinder's selfishness, so it seems like she's not willing to aid her, though someone else is. Emerald, the thief, having heard Cinder's plans, even noting that she has been working on improving her semblance, which I wonder what that is in regards to. Is that maybe making it effective on more than one person without giving her a headache, or could she make more realistic hallucinations? We'll have to wait and see. Either way, I am actually worried for Emerald right now, continuing to put her neck on the line for Cinder, even after Mercury's best efforts to make her realize that Cinder doesn't really care all about her that much. But at the same time, I am still excited to see this dynamic at play, and all the drama that follows with them back together again. Even more so with Neo likely still coming along as well, since she's already meshed well with practically anyone, and she may help Emerald realize the futility of her hopes. And there's also one other detail that I think is worth noting. With this, we now have Penny, Cinder, and Emerald all set to return to the place where the two bad guys were integral to Penny's original demise back in Volume 3. Meaning, we could be set for Penny's payback in the most fitting stage possible, and that's even before the possibility of Penny being hacked during this time, if Ironwood discovers Cinder's appearance and takes control in the hopes of slaying one of his enemy's most key pieces. Finally, we begin to wrap up the episode as the Tundra trio thankfully finds some shelter. But the words thrown about before are still lingering, and Jean tries his hand at helping his friend's woes by embracing the topic of his beacon cheating, saying he had people like Ren to help him overcome that mistake, and later ones as well, like bottling up his feelings over Pyrrha's death and the reckless sacrificial nature he had dealing with Cinder that has been quelled because of his friend's support. He wants Ren to realize that the more he hides away his emotions, the further away he's pushing all those who simply want to share the load with him for his sake. But try as Jean might, even he can't seem to fully break that stubborn shell of Ren's as he steps outside to, literally, chill off. Sooner or later, his emotions and stresses are gonna keep flowing out, so much so that he's not gonna be able to stop it, be it by choice or in moments like these out in the tundra. And you can get a glimpse of him perhaps understanding that at long last, maybe he does need to talk about it, but he's just not ready right now. He's not the only one as well with some worries on the brain, as while Yang is working on fixing the hoverbike, she asks Jean if she may think less of her for not helping with Amity, which Jean believes she's referring to Ruby given the initial dispute back in the bar, except Yang's reply to Jean saying that Ruby's her sister, she'll always love her no matter what, seems to imply that she was actually wondering about Blake. Now before some folks start getting snippy saying, stop forcing Bumblebee, does Yang even care about her sister? Let me remind you that Yang clearly does have full faith in Ruby, even with this recent stumble. Beyond just the unconditional love between family members that we all have, in the past, she shared her confidence in Ruby's ability to persevere through so many things, and even if she may not be able to agree with everything completely, she knows deep down Ruby will always do the right thing. Even with this spat and some fair concerns for her leadership as of late, there's no doubt in my mind that Yang does still care and has faith in her sister, and she knows that she feels the same way. The fact that she doesn't even need to vocalize her worries alone should say enough about how strong that faith is. And trust me, as someone who often has arguments with my brother, I can confirm that those kind of disputes are kind of part and parcel to sibling life, and there's still feelings of love and support there that doesn't need to be expressed 24/7. Blake though is a different matter. There's no unconditional family love even with the bond of them being close friends and teammates, so there's not as strong a guarantee that Blake will always stand by her, especially when she's already left Yang once before. And for someone like Yang with a huge amount of abandonment issues, it's fair for her to be worried about not doing something that might lead to a repeat of said divide. Not to mention, Yang knows Blake is someone who thinks of how she can make things better for the bigger picture. So perhaps she's worried that by focusing on the still important but smaller scaled issues, she's not meshing well with such a key aspect of who Blake is. And for someone who wants to prove she's deserving of standing by Blake's side, especially if feelings of love are involved, finding something that you worry may make you not compatible as much as you would like is understandable worries to form. This is the first time that she and Blake have been apart by choice because of differing stances on something that Yang fears could drive another wedge between them. And for someone with those, again, massive abandonment issues, can you really blame her for having even the slightest worry she's done something wrong when she's not even able to talk about it with Blake? I totally get why Yang is feeling this way, and it's nice to see her open up about it to anyone, let alone Jean, who honestly at this point is doing super well for someone who's usually on the other side of these kind of debates. But as the episode ends, it's clear that these emotional battles that have really only just begun may need to be on the back burner ASAP, as a nearby frozen lake starts to crack. Is it the shark grim from the last week's poster? Is it the sulfur fish from the Grim contest? Maybe it's a kraken, or if it's truly mirroring the cracked ice sequence from the opening, maybe it's winter knuckle-laves. I'm willing to bet it is the shark grim because, you know, you can't save such a concept for a health and safety poster, and if so, I know one thing's for sure. It better be called Bruce. Well now, I can see why this was such a long episode, because it was packed to the brim with emotional highs and sombering lows for one of the most gripping chapters in some time. The drama and interactions were almost as intense and high energy as the bike chase, maybe even more so, as even with the slower paced moments, I was bombarded with emotional moment after emotional moment. Said bike chase was, again, a brilliant new style of action for the series that bled remarkably well into the later turmoil, with continued top-drawer camera work and snappy, yet smooth, animations that never felt like it wasn't matching the speed of the chase. Yet it says a lot about the strong writing and performances that, even with such a bombastic sequence, the thrills of the emotional dilemmas could outmatch them in ability to grasp your full attention. The opening scene did a lot of good for the slowly forming Crow and Robin dynamic, as well as Marrow and Harriet, with the two jailbirds also benefiting for some more emotional layers to their content to help them avoid feeling like one-note characters already for the volume's direction, especially Robin with the reveal of some much-needed fragility to her character to further tie herself well into Crow's own engaging problems. The emotions kept flowing and being the core of the episode's overall quality as we reached the stuff in the tundra, with perhaps the best interactions of the volume so far with the mixed up hero teams, the combo of Jean's level-headedness and Yang's brutal honesty sparking the perfect coupling act to finally start breaking into Ren's dilemma to reach the real goal to be found within, bringing back the character to sort of the similar strong emotional exploration that he had during Volume 4. And everything with the villains, more so with Salem, was simply phenomenal. Salem finally feels like the ruthless, chilling, cunning lead villain that she was described as, finally putting action to those claims. The choice to not shy away from her brutal treatment of Oscar was the best support to Jen's strong voice work and the frighteningly haunting music to make sure you dreaded to see what was gonna happen next. And the stuff with Cinder also lays some strong groundwork for what should be a massive moment for her and Cinder's characters. You could make the argument that the stuff at the Schnee Manor perhaps may fare better in a future episode with more focus on this dynamic, but it did give a welcome moment to breathe midway through the episode, and also touch on it now so there's hopefully a wider focus next time out. And either way, it still set the stage well for this dynamic in an episode that on a writing, directing, and animation level could be another entry into some of the strongest episodes in recent volumes. One more proof? It was incredibly hard to pick the winners for all 3 of my episode awards, but to start off, I opted for the torture scene as my scene of the episode winner. as appreciation for not sugarcoating what should be one of the most tense, depressing, and concerning moments of the volume, and also in our first true meeting between the prime heroes, we finally got the lead villain feeling like the dark, menacing threat that she is meant to be seen as. And this also earned Salem the Character of the Episode award too. And finally, the voice acting gold star goes to Neve Ohm, though truth be told, I could have given this to so many others. Aaron, Jen, Barbara, Miles, Jason. There were a slew of top level performances across the entire episode, but I gotta give Neve due praise for how well he's able to sell Ren in such unfamiliar emotional territory in spite of his limited acting experience. Well done, indeed. So, I gotta ask, how are we 4 episodes into this volume, and already we've gone through some of the best episode content in recent volumes, almost like we've already gone through a full volume? The hits just keep on coming, literally in some instances, and with still so much time left in this volume, it's crazy to think where we could go next. The night of day 1 for volume 8 is drawing to a close, and with day 2 on the horizon, I only hope that this level of quality keeps flowing along. But what about you guys? Did you enjoy the thrills on and off the battlefield? How do you feel about the scenes with Salem? And what do you think is under the ice? Let me know in the comments down below, and while you're at it, hit the subscribe and bell buttons and tick the notification box to get every video from me as they drop, and follow me on Twitter at ThatKaitoDan for more on anything to do with future RWBY reviews, updates on the channel, and more. But until next time, have a good day or good night, and peace out.